You think charisma is magic, a gift some people are born with, an inexplicable magnetism that makes everyone want to be near them, listen to them, follow them. You're wrong. And here's what makes this dangerous. The person you think is naturally charming, they're not charming. They're executing a series of calculated micro-behaviors that hijack your brain's social reward system, and you don't even notice they're doing it. Right now, someone in your life, maybe your boss, your friend, that person everyone gravitates toward at parties, is using techniques on you. Not consciously malicious, but absolutely systematic. They maintain eye contact 3.2 seconds longer than normal. They mirror your body language with a 2-second delay. They use your name 17% more frequently than others do. They ask questions that make you feel like the most interesting person in the room. None of this is accident. This video will destroy something for you. The illusion that charisma is innate, the belief that magnetic people are just like that, the comfort of thinking some people are born special. Because once you understand the mechanics, the specific, learnable techniques that create the charisma effect, you can't unsee them. From Dale Carnegie to Robert Greene, from neuroscience labs studying social influence to cult leaders weaponizing charm, the pattern is clear. Charisma isn't personality, it's performance, and anyone can learn it. By the end of this video, you'll know the 15 micro techniques that create magnetic presence, why introverts can be more charismatic than extroverts, how to detect weaponized charm, and how to build authentic magnetism without becoming a manipulator. This isn't about becoming fake. It's about understanding that everyone you thought was real was performing all along. Let me destroy the most pervasive myth about charisma. Some people just have it. No, they don't. Study after study confirms charisma is learned behavior. Olivia Fox-Caban's research at MIT, charisma can be taught in 8 weeks. Stanford's social neuroscience lab, magnetic presence activates specific, measurable brain patterns. Robert Greene's analysis of history's most influential figures, every single one used systematic techniques. Here's what charisma actually is. Charisma equals presence plus power plus warmth. Presence, making people feel like they're the only person in the room. Power, demonstrating competence and confidence without arrogance. Warmth, creating psychological safety and emotional resilience. That's it. That's the entire framework. Everything else is technique. When someone charismatic interacts with you, your brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone from feeling seen, dopamine, the reward chemical from feeling valued, acknowledged, serotonin, the status chemical from feeling elevated by their attention. They're not casting a spell, they're triggering your neurochemistry. Think about the person you know who everyone loves. They remember details about your life you mentioned months ago. They make you feel like your opinion matters. They laugh at your jokes, genuinely. They touch your arm at the perfect moment. They lean in when you speak. They ask follow-up questions that show they're actually listening. None of this is accident. You thought this was natural warmth. It's learned behavior. Every single piece. And here's what makes this revelation so destabilizing. If charisma is performance, if magnetic people are executing techniques, if charm is calculated, then who are they really? And more importantly, who are you when you're trying to be liked? The answer is more complex than you think, because there's a difference between authentic charisma and weaponized charm. And if you can't tell them apart, you're vulnerable to manipulation. What follows are 15 specific, observable behaviors that create the charisma effect. These aren't vague principles. They're actionable micro-techniques that you can spot in others or deploy yourself. Use them for connection or use them for control. The mechanics don't care about your morality. 1.
the triple nod. What it is: nodding 3 times while someone speaks. Why it works: psychological research shows triple nods signal deep agreement and encourage the speaker to continue and elaborate. How charismatic people use it: they nod slowly, deliberately 3 times when you say something important. You feel heard. You keep talking. They learn more about you while revealing nothing about themselves. The dark side: interrogators use this. Cult leaders use this. Anyone extracting information uses this. Watch for it. If someone nods exactly 3 times consistently, they're trained in influence. 2. The delayed mirror. What it is: copying someone's body language with a 2 to 4 second delay. Why it works: mirroring creates subconscious rapport. The delay prevents it from being obvious. How charismatic people use it: you lean back. 3 seconds later, they lean back. You cross your arms. They follow. You use a hand gesture. They incorporate it later in the conversation. Neuroscience: mirror neurons fire. Your brain registers, "This person is like me," without conscious awareness. The dark side: master manipulators mirror micro-expressions, breathing patterns, even vocal rhythm. Watch for it. If you notice someone's body language is always slightly in sync with yours, it's deliberate. 3. The power pause. What it is: strategic silence after important statements. Why it works: creates anticipation, forces attention, demonstrates confidence. How charismatic people use it: they make a statement, then pause. 3 to 5 seconds. Let it land. Watch your reaction. The silence makes the statement feel more profound than it is. Compare. Normal: "I think we should change our approach because it's not working." Charismatic: "I think we should change our approach." 3-second pause. Eye contact. Because it's not working. The impact is completely different. Watch for it. If someone's comfortable with silence after they speak, they're trained. 4. Name deployment. What it is: using someone's name 15 to 20% more than normal conversation. Why it works: hearing your own name activates the medial prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain associated with self-reference and attention. How charismatic people use it: "Sarah, I love that point. That's exactly what I was thinking, Sarah. Sarah, can I ask you something?" Not every sentence, just enough to keep you engaged. The dark side: salespeople are trained in this. So are con artists. Watch for it. Count how many times they use your name versus how many times normal people do. 5. The spotlight shift. What it is: redirecting attention onto the other person in a group setting. Why it works: makes people feel seen and valued, creates loyalty. How charismatic people use it: in a group conversation, they say, "Hold on, I want to hear what Mark thinks about this. Jessica, you have experience with this. What's your take?" Everyone wants to be acknowledged. Charismatic people distribute acknowledgement strategically. The dark side: they're also controlling who speaks and when, managing the group dynamic. Watch for it. If someone consistently pulls quiet people into conversations, they're using influence techniques. 6. The vulnerability velvet hammer. What it is: strategic self-disclosure of minor flaws to build trust, followed by demonstrations of competence. Why it works: vulnerability creates connection. Competence maintains status. The combination is magnetic. How charismatic people use it: "I used to be terrible at public speaking, like panic attack level terrible. Took me years to figure it out." Then, later in the same conversation, delivers flawless presentation. The contrast makes them seem both relatable and impressive. The dark side: calculated vulnerability isn't real vulnerability. It's a tool. Watch for it. If their flaws always make them seem more impressive, it's strategic. 7. Triangular gazing. What it is: eye contact that moves in a triangle, left eye, right eye, mouth, then back up. Why it works: maintains eye contact without being aggressive, creates intimacy without intensity, How charismatic people use it? In one-on-one conversation, their gaze isn't locked. It moves naturally in a small triangle on your face. You feel seen, but not stared at. Neuroscience. This mimics the gaze pattern during attraction and deep conversation. The dark side. Pickup artists are trained in this explicitly. Watch for it. If eye contact feels magnetic but not uncomfortable, they're using triangular gazing. 8. The status elevation. What it is: subtly elevating the other person's status through language. Why it works: everyone wants to feel important. Status elevation is addictive. How charismatic people use it? You're one of the few people who actually gets this. I don't share this with everyone, but you'll understand. Someone with your experience knows this.
They're positioning you as part of an exclusive group. In-group bias activates. You feel special. The dark side. Cults use this constantly. You are more evolved than the masses. Watch for it. If someone makes you feel like you're in their inner circle quickly, it's technique. 9. The passion gear shift. What it is: modulating energy and intensity to match and then slightly exceed the conversation's emotional level. Why it works? Energy is contagious. Leading the emotional tone gives you conversational control. How charismatic people use it? You. This project has been frustrating. Them. Matching your energy. I can imagine. Sounds exhausting. Then, slight intensity increase. But here's what I'm excited about. They matched you, then led you somewhere else. The dark side. Emotional manipulation. Leading you from anger to agreement, sadness to action. Watch for it. If someone always seems to guide the emotional direction of conversations, they're trained. 10. The premature we. What it is: using we instead of I or you before actual relationship has been established. Why it works? Creates artificial intimacy and shared identity. How charismatic people use it? First meeting: we should grab coffee. Early relationship: this is what we believe. Business: here's where we're going. They're manufacturing belonging. The dark side. Cult leaders do this immediately. We are the awakened ones. Watch for it. If someone uses we before you've agreed to be a we, they're influencing. 11. The breadcrumb backstory. What it is: revealing personal information in small strategic increments to build intrigue. Why it works: mystery is magnetic. Gradual revelation keeps people interested. How charismatic people use it? First mention: I lived overseas for a while. Later: it was actually in Southeast Asia. Later still: I was teaching English in a remote village. They could have said it all at once. They didn't, because the mystery keeps you engaged. The dark side. Withholding information to maintain power and interest. Watch for it. If you feel like you're always learning more about them in small doses, it's strategic. 12. The validation sandwich. What it is: validation, then challenge, then validation. Why it works: the brain receives reward from first validation, stays engaged through challenge, receives reward again from second validation. This creates a positive association with being challenged. How charismatic people use it? You're clearly intelligent. I'm surprised you're not seeing the gap here, but that's exactly why this conversation is valuable. You feel good. You accept the challenge. You feel good again. The dark side. This is how controlling people criticize without triggering defensiveness. Watch for it. If criticism always comes wrapped in compliments, it's technique. 13. The callback. What it is: referencing something mentioned earlier in conversation to show attention and create continuity. Why it works? People feel heard when you remember details. Callbacks demonstrate engagement. How charismatic people use it? You, earlier: I'm thinking about switching careers. Them, 30 minutes later: going back to what you said about the career change. You didn't think they were paying that much attention. They were. The dark side. They're collecting data.
Every callback is a demonstration of how closely they're studying you. Watch for it. If someone remembers more details about your life than you remember about theirs, power imbalance exists. 14. The scarcity frame. What it is: communicating limited availability to increase perceived value. Why it works: scarcity triggers urgency and desire. How charismatic people use it? I don't usually do this, but my schedule's pretty packed, but I can make time for you. I'm selective about who I work with. They're not just busy, they're strategically demonstrating their value through scarcity. The dark side: artificial scarcity is manipulation. Watch for it. If someone frequently mentions how busy or selective they are, it's positioning. 15. The collaborative frame. What it is: positioning ideas as collaborative rather than directive. Why it works: people support what they help create. How charismatic people use it? Directive: here's what we're going to do. Collaborative: what if we approached it this way? What do you think? Same outcome, different frame, massive difference in buy-in. The dark side: the illusion of collaboration while maintaining control. Watch for it. If someone always makes you feel like decisions are mutual when they're clearly leading, it's technique. Part 3. Dark charisma versus authentic magnetism. Here's where everything becomes morally complex, because all 15 techniques can be used two ways. 1. To manipulate and control. 2. To connect and influence. Dark charisma, weaponized, used to extract value from others, creates one-way power dynamics, masks true intentions, leaves people feeling drained, no genuine care for the other person. Authentic magnetism, used to create mutual value, creates reciprocal relationships, aligned with true intentions, leaves people energized, genuine interest in others' well-being. How do you tell the difference? Ask yourself: 1. After interacting with them, do you feel elevated or depleted? Dark charisma drains, authentic magnetism energizes. 2. Do they use the techniques to learn about you or to get something from you? Manipulators extract, magnetic people exchange. 3. Are they consistent across contexts or do they shapeshift? Watch how they treat service workers, subordinates, people they don't need anything from. 4. Do they give without expectation or is everything transactional? Authentic magnetism gives freely. Dark charisma always has a ledger. Examples of dark charisma. Cult leaders: Jim Jones, Charles Manson, masters of charisma used for destruction. Toxic executives: Elizabeth Holmes at Theranos, weaponized magnetism to defraud investors. Narcissistic partners: love bombing using every technique on this list, then withdrawal. Con artists: Frank Abagnale, pure performance, zero authentic connection. The uncomfortable truth: the techniques are morally neutral. A surgeon's scalpel can save a life or take one. The charisma techniques can build connection or destroy it. The difference is intention. And here's the question you need to ask yourself. If you learn these techniques, who will you become? Will you use them to genuinely connect with people, build trust and rapport, make others feel valued? Or to get what you want from people, control social dynamics, manipulate for personal gain? The truth is, you'll probably do both, because we're all performing to some degree. We all want to be liked. We all use influence. The question isn't, will you use these techniques? The question is, will you use them consciously or unconsciously? Because the people using them unconsciously are often the most dangerous. They don't think they're manipulating. They think they're just being themselves. But themselves is a performance they don't recognize as a performance. Part 4. The Neuroscience of Magnetism. Let's get specific about what's happening in the brain during charismatic interaction. When you're in the presence of someone charismatic, your brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, released during eye contact, touch, feeling seen, creates trust and attachment, can be artificially triggered. Dopamine, the reward chemical, released when you feel valued, acknowledged, included, creates desire to repeat the interaction, highly addictive. Serotonin, the status chemical, elevated when you feel respected or elevated by association, creates feelings of confidence and well-being, why being around high-status people feels good. Charismatic people are essentially neurochemical engineers. They know, consciously or unconsciously, which behaviors trigger which chemicals. Eye contact plus genuine smile equals oxytocin. Your name plus validation equals dopamine. Status elevation equals serotonin. It's not magic, it's biochemistry. Mirror neurons, brain cells that fire both when you act and when you observe someone else acting. Why this matters? When someone displays confidence, your mirror neurons simulate that confidence. When someone displays warmth, you feel warmth. When someone displays excitement, you become excited. Charismatic people leverage this. They embody the state they want you to experience. Want you calm? They're calm. Want you excited? They're excited. Want them to trust you? They display trustworthiness. Your brain mirrors their state. Research shows charismatic people activate specific brain regions in others. Ventromedial prefrontal cortex, reward processing. Posterior cingulate cortex, self-referential thinking. Temporoparietal junction, theory of mind, understanding others' mental states. Translation: charismatic people make your brain light up in the areas associated with reward, self-focus,
and social understanding. You're not just liking them, your brain is literally being rewarded for paying attention to them. Even voice quality affects brain response. Lower vocal tones activate trust and authority centers. Varied pitch maintains attention and interest. Strategic pauses create anticipation and dopamine spikes. Charismatic speakers unconsciously modulate all three. Understanding this neuroscience reveals something profound. Charisma isn't about being liked, it's about triggering specific brain states in others. And once you understand the triggers, you can 1. Deploy them ethically, creating genuine connection. 2. Recognize them, protecting yourself from manipulation. 3. Choose your response, not being unconsciously influenced. Part 5. Building authentic magnetism. Now that you understand the mechanics, here's how to build authentic charisma. Principle 1. Presence over performance. Real charisma starts with genuine presence. Not, I need to seem interested, but I am genuinely curious about this person. The techniques work better when they're expressing genuine interest, not manufacturing it. Practice. Put phone away completely. Make mental decision to be present. Ask questions because you want to know, not to seem engaged. Principle 2. Power through competence. Don't fake expertise. Build real competence in areas that matter to you. Confidence comes from actual ability. When you know your stuff, you don't need to prove it constantly. You can admit what you don't know. Your certainty is natural, not performed. Principle 3. Warmth through genuine care. You can't fake caring about people long term, but you can choose to be curious about them. Practice seeing them as complex humans, not NPCs. Remember details because you actually care, not to impress. Principle 4. Strategic authenticity. Be selectively vulnerable. Not everything needs to be shared, but what you do share should be real. The formula: share struggles you've overcome, relatability plus competence. Admit current challenges in areas you're working on, authenticity. Never share wounds that are still bleeding. Oversharing doesn't equal vulnerability. Principle 5. Energy management. Charismatic people manage their energy carefully. Introverts
quality over quantity, deep connection with few rather than shallow with many. Extroverts, broad engagement but strategic depth when it matters. Both know when you're energized versus performing. Don't force it when depleted. Principle 6. Conscious deployment. Use the 15 techniques consciously. Ask yourself before each interaction, what's my intention here? Am I trying to connect or control? Would I still do this if it didn't benefit me? Real charisma is natural technique plus genuine intention plus authentic presence. You learn the mechanics so they become unconscious. You align them with real care so they're not manipulative. You practice presence so you're actually there when you deploy them. But be honest with yourself. You will slip into performance mode. You will use these techniques strategically. You will sometimes manipulate, even with good intentions. That's human. The goal isn't purity, it's consciousness. Know when you're performing, know why, choose consciously. Part 6. The final truth. If you've made it this far, you're probably having a few realizations. Realization 1, that naturally charismatic person you know isn't natural. They're trained, or they train themselves unconsciously. Realization 2, you've been influenced by these techniques your entire life without recognizing them. Realization 3, you can learn this, all of it. Here's the paradox of understanding charisma. Once you see the mechanics, authentic charisma becomes harder because now you know you're performing. You can't unknow the techniques. But here's the resolution. Conscious performance aligned with authentic values is the highest form of charisma. The spectrum of awareness. Unconscious incompetence. You don't have charisma and don't know why. Conscious incompetence, you recognize the techniques but can't deploy them smoothly. Conscious competence, you use the techniques deliberately. They're still effortful. Unconscious competence, the techniques become second nature. You're authentically charismatic. Now you have a choice. Option 1, reject this knowledge. It's manipulative. I'll just be myself. Reality, yourself is already performing. You just don't recognize it. Option 2, learn the techniques purely for personal gain. Reality, you'll get results, but leave damage. Dark charisma path. Option 3, integrate the techniques with authentic care. Reality, you become genuinely magnetic while maintaining integrity. With this knowledge comes responsibility. You now recognize these techniques in others. Use that awareness to protect yourself from manipulation. You can now deploy these techniques. Use them to create genuine connection, not extract value. You understand the power of influence. Wield it carefully. But here's what nobody talks about. The most charismatic people aren't trying to be charismatic. They're so focused on understanding, connecting with, and valuing others that the techniques emerge naturally. Charisma is a byproduct of genuine fascination with humans. When you're truly curious about people, you naturally ask good questions. You naturally listen deeply. You naturally make them feel seen. You naturally mirror and match. You naturally remember details because you actually care. So the ultimate truth about charisma is this. It's both completely mechanical and completely authentic. The mechanics are real. The techniques work. But they work best when they're expressing something genuine. And now for the hardest question. Who are you when nobody's watching? Because that's your baseline. The techniques amplify whatever's there. If you're genuinely caring, they amplify your care. If you're genuinely selfish, they amplify your selfishness. Charisma doesn't make you good or bad. It makes you more effective at being who you already are. So the real work isn't learning the techniques. The real work is becoming someone whose amplified self you can be proud of. Because once you master charisma, once it becomes unconscious competence, you can't hide anymore. Your true character will radiate through the techniques. The person you thought was naturally magnetic, they're performing, using techniques, triggering your neurochemistry. But so are you. The only question is, are you performing consciously or unconsciously? And when people are drawn to you, are you leading them somewhere good? Closing. If this shattered your illusions about charisma, there's more. Comment below. Who's the most charismatic person you know, and which techniques you just recognized in them? You're not watching this to manipulate people. You're watching this because someone's been using these techniques on you, and you're tired of not seeing it coming. Now you do. Now you have a choice.